Hello, beautiful people. What is going on today? I hope this finds you, as always, very, very well. I wanted to put another vlog up here on my site. I've been thinking about a lot of things lately, but this is just something that's really been hitting me. So I created a little chart, and I don't know, we're gonna try to do things a little bit differently this time around, maybe with a visual aid. I actually came up with this. I'm calling it the Ascension Pendulum. So let me know what you think and let me know if you like it. This is something that's come to me after, oh God, hours of meditation, tapping into my inner guidance and my intuitive self, and something that I've come to appreciate and adopt in my own life. And anyway, without further ado, I will get more into that here as we go. But anyway, so when I became sober, one of the first things that happened to me, and is not uncommon and pretty much is going to happen to anybody else, once you take that negative influence of alcohol out of your life, what's going to happen is you're naturally going to raise your overall spiritual being, your vibration, and your overall intuitive awareness. And once you put away the addictive substance, you'll find that you are starting to develop a desire for a more solid spiritual foundation. And while a lot of us out there have grown up with some sort of spiritual training or background, a lot of us probably also, if we were in addiction or we were just caught up in everyday life and the grind and trying to climb the corporate ladder and all of that good stuff, we probably lost it somewhere along the way. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an addictive substance that you were throwing yourself into. It could be just the day-to-day things of this world that actually, while not addictive in the sense that alcohol is, they can be addictive by their own right in a lot of different ways. So put the alcohol down, and if you go to AA, that's one of the things you're going to find that they focus on. It's really not a program that centers so much on giving up the addictive substance, the booze. It's what happens afterwards. And so there is a deep spiritual component to that. So I go to AA, I found myself going back to church, born, raised Catholic. I was going to church every week after I became sober for the first few years. I actually probably did not miss Mass for a 2-year period, more than 1 or 2 weeks out of the whole year. It really helped me ground and center myself. But I got to a point as I started to develop my intuitive skills a little bit more, and my spirit started to awaken to a greater extent, where I was just meditating through the Mass quite a bit. And I'm sorry if this triggers anybody out there, but I would sit, and it was during COVID and masking and lockdowns and all that stuff, so I'd sit there in the pew and I had my mask on, and I'd have my eyes closed a lot of times, and I'd just be meditating. And of course, having been born, raised, and gone to plenty of Catholic Mass, I knew when it was time to stand up, sit down, and all that good stuff. So I would be able to hear when the next phase of the Mass came up, and I'd stand up, sit down, kneel. But most of the time when I was sitting, I was closed my eyes. I had my eyes closed, and I was in quiet meditation. Except for the homily, or maybe the gospel. I tended to listen to those somewhat. The homily, you had about 30 seconds to hook me, and if you didn't, I was pretty much out. But anyway, so through that all, I started to go further and develop, like I just said, more of an intuitive inner desire, searching, longing for deeper spiritual meaning. So since then, I have gone down just about every spiritual rabbit hole there is. I have read up on everything from near-death experiences, and I've covered this in a lot of my other videos, near-death experiences to mediumship to New Age concepts, all of that stuff. The Gnostic Gospels, I am a huge fan of the Gnostic Gospels. I find them fascinating. But at any rate, so this is something that I've developed. I'm a big fan of something as well called A Course in Miracles that I would highly recommend to anybody, no matter how regularly you go to church, whatever religion, whatever faith you practice. A Course in Miracles is a very centering, grounding process text. It is something they call a channeled text, channeled by Jesus. No, actually by a human here in the 70s, but it was Jesus speaking divinely through this human. And it is just, if nothing else, it is a complete anxiety buster. But with all that said, through all those things, I developed kind of my own view on how to ascend and in our lifetime grow to a deeper, more advanced spiritual level as we go through this process. It doesn't matter whether you believe in reincarnation or whether you think that this is a one-time shot. This applies to pretty much any of it. So I called it the Ascension Pendulum, and I want you to give this some thought. The end goal of our life, or many lives, if you believe in that, is to return to God, Source, Creator, whatever you want to call it, a divine state of love. We could even put heaven in there if we want. So that is the end goal of this ascension process. And I'm going to show you what I've found to be true in so many cases here. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, and I hope on this video we can see this, but I'm going to start here at the bottom. Okay, there we go. All right, so if you notice, this is in the shape of, or we've got God, Creator, Source, and Love at the top, and at the bottom, the actual bottom of the pendulum, we have us, our human being, our essence, our soul. And as we go through life and we progress toward the end of our life to whatever our end goal is, it might be the next life, it might be heaven, it might be whatever religion you practice. If you practice an organized religion, whatever your end goal is, we're progressing toward that through our life. And here's us going back and forth as things happen. Now you'll notice here, I've got these, over the course of our life, I've got these what I call ascension opportunities. And these are things that are going to happen to us. Before we came here and we develop our soul plan, we determine things that are going to happen at different points in our life that are going to challenge us and they are going to help us grow. They're going to happen whether we want them to happen or not. It's all about how we're going to respond to them. And we can do that in a variety of ways, and it's always fueled by emotion down here. Emotion, and I like to also refer to it as energy in motion, right? Get it? Makes sense. So down here we can see where we are the pendulum itself, and through our life, as we progress and these things happen, we swing back and forth with our emotions. We can swing to more dense emotions, which are anger, negativity, hubris. And if you don't know what hubris means, it's a sense of pride, like I'm better than you type of mentality. I know better, I'm more wise, look at me, I'm smart, I'm big, you're little, that type of thing. I think we see that a lot in the world today. Or we can go to the lighter side of emotion, bliss, joy, positivity. Yes, the world is wonderful and full of roses and all that good stuff. So you'll find, and I think we all have moment to moment, day to day, minute to minute, we swing back and forth through these through these different emotions. Now, so we're moving along, we're swinging, and we hit something. We hit one of these ascension opportunities. I'm going to use the example of an election. I'm not going to go with any specific election, but elections are something that people have talked about a lot the last, several years now. So we go into this election, say the candidate who we want to win wins. Well, we can go a couple of different ways. We can be over here with a sense of hubris, like, oh, look at my guy or a woman or whoever it might be. They won, they're better, forget the other side. We're right, you're wrong. So what we're doing is we're dwelling at that point where we have the ascension opportunity, we're dwelling over here. All right? We can be happy in a different way. We can be happy, joy, I don't care what the other side does. We can be dwelling in a state of bliss over here. And when we do that, we lose perspective of what's going on over here. When we do this over here, we're just over here in a negative state. If we lose and we are harboring resentment and hate for the person who is in office, we're dwelling over here again. I think what I'm trying to illustrate to everybody is when we're here and here, we are not actually in the state we need to be to ascend. What the goal is to achieve a state of neutrality. Neutrality does not mean that we don't have a preference or we don't feel one candidate might be a better fit for what's going on in the world right now than another. But neutrality is the state that we need to be in to allow divine guidance, the universe, and everything to flow down to us. And as we are in a state of neutrality, once we learn to balance our emotions from going back and forth, when we are in a state of neutrality, that's when we meet and overcome these life challenges that we have decided before we got here that we want to take on. And as we go up and up and up, we keep getting met with more challenges, but you can see where that also this triangle here gets narrower and narrower because it becomes easier and easier to manage our emotions as we move forward. This is my first time through doing this, so I hope I'm explaining this okay. But the main point is that to progress on our spiritual path, and you know what, you can think of this as one lifetime. If you are somebody out there, and there's a lot of people who actually are out there that believe in reincarnation, we can even take this on a more macro level and think of each one of these as a individual lifetime. But at any rate, so where was I going with this? Some of you are out there like, I don't know, where were you going with this? So as we go along and we maintain a state of neutrality, we learn to maintain neutrality through these emotional swings, that's when we progress closer to our divine source of love, guidance, where we are ultimately going to. And the better we are in line with that, and the closer we get, the more guidance naturally flows to us. Now, I've noticed this in my own life. The last couple years, I have really tried to maintain a state of neutrality in a lot of things. Not perfect at it. Don't do it all the time. Lose it on a daily basis. But I have found that when I do, and I just stay calm, and I try to look at everything going on around me from an observer type standpoint, as opposed to getting in the weeds and getting my emotions in it, and my anger and fear, or even my bliss, joy, going overboard that way. I find that life is so much more manageable, and the most amazing miracles come in and start to work in my life. I think you'll notice if you look at some of the Gospels even, Jesus said that, and I just saw it the other day, and I can't quote it exactly right now, but he basically said he was not the one working the miracles were working through him. In all cases where there are miracles mentioned, not all cases, but a lot of them I was reading as well in the Gospel of John, where miracles were worked, he credited the person's faith, not his doing, the person's faith that actually allowed the miracle to flow through Jesus. Jesus was a very neutral person most of the time, but we do see at different times where he was human, like when he got angry in the temple, things like that, but I digress. Anyway, this is my new creation. I hope you like it. Try it. Try to stay as neutral as possible in all things. That's the challenge. I think about this, and I kind of relate to something I saw. Any of you guys who are Star Wars fans out there, if you watch The Mandalorian, there's a spoiler here, but if you watch The Mandalorian at the end of season 2, and if you haven't seen it by now, I'm sorry, too late. When Luke Skywalker shows up to rescue Baby Yoda at the end, we see a Luke Skywalker who's now a Jedi, and you watch him at the end where he's picking up Baby Yoda or Grogu to take him to train him to be a Jedi, and this is something that he should have been all jacked up and excited about and all that stuff. And you know what? He was just like very narrow, very, very mellow, very, very neutral in the emotions that they had that character display at that time. Whereas if you saw some of the other Star Wars in the older days, Luke was very excitable, and Yoda even called him out on that before he started his Jedi training. On the back end, we saw him in the later movies where he kind of became an old curmudgeon, and he had to kind of come back to a more neutral state to do what he did in the end and evolve to where he met his own destiny and was absorbed into the Force and all that stuff. But I did think that it kind of related a lot to what I was trying to explain here. But anyway, state of neutrality, try to maintain it. I hope this all made sense. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, blessings and love to everybody. Stay happy, stay neutral. Or stay neutral and you'll be happier. Life will be a lot easier, and that's it. All right, we'll see you. Bye-bye.